Hey everybody, JSquared John Jeremy here, back with another question and answer session. We've got several questions this time around, so if you've got a question of your own, make sure to post in the comments below. I do have a business trip I'm going on next week, so I plan on a special question and answer episode for next week, but we'll collect all those questions from you guys in and we'll answer them in future episodes as well. So let's go and get started here. Our first question comes from NoNoGoberboy13. He's actually got a two-part question here. They don't really coincide with each other, so we'll take them one at a time. The first question is, what did you study in college and why? So, funny enough, really, especially for somebody who works at a technology company, I studied political science when I was in college, and I wanted to go into politics, and it just happened to be that I hated it. I absolutely did not like that path for me after I had started to go to school for it. And it was weird for me personally because I have, I guess, an optimistic outlook on life and on what we should be as a people, as a nation, as a race altogether, as humanity, as a species, and politics can be a very grimy business, and I saw the underbelly of that, and I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. So it was really weird for me, and in fact, for the next couple of years afterward, I was kind of lost because I didn't really know what to do with myself. Now that, because I had this path set for me, I had been thinking about it for several years. So now, come to find out that I don't like it at all and what to do. So luckily, after a couple of years, I managed to find a place that I enjoy working at. And of course, what I do here on YouTube, I mean, if I didn't have this outlet here, I don't really know who I would be. This is such a huge part of my life. Nowadays, I wish I had went to school for, and I guess I still can, go to school for things like social media and like communications as a whole, videography, because I'm stretching the limits right now as it is when it comes to what I can do with a green screen behind me and the video camera in front of me. So this talking head thing is like bare bones stuff, really. So maybe in the future, I'll take some classes on how to upgrade my own skill set when it comes to these sort of recordings. But that's in the future. But I appreciate the question. His second question is really, I guess, out of left field one. What is your favorite cookie? Well, personally, my favorite cookie either has to be a chocolate chip cookie warmed up just enough so that it doesn't crumble in your hand, but that the chocolate inside becomes gooey and you can kind of feel it stick to the insides of your mouth a little bit. I'm starting to salivate right now thinking about it. That is a fantastic cookie. Another cookie I like is, funny enough, oatmeal. I can have oatmeal cookies all day, every day, no problem at all. Cinnamon cookies too, same thing. I don't really know why. And truthfully, I'm not that much of a cookie eater, but those would be like my top 3 go-tos of cookies. So there you go. I hope that answers your question, No. I'm not really sure why you wanted to know that in particular, but there you go. Our next question, again, another 2-part question, comes from Jacob Mackey. And his first question is, some YouTubers have to go through several drafts of what they want to say before they record. Do you have that problem? No, Jacob, I probably have the opposite problem in that I don't think before I start talking. Like right now, I'm reading these questions. There's no script. I'm not really it's basically stream of consciousness answering here. I'm reading the questions and then I'm answering them directly. So I kind of have the opposite problem here. I probably should have like a teleprompter somewhere where I can write down a couple notes. I probably wouldn't want to go like on a full script, but a couple notes here and there would probably be nice. There are a few exceptions to that though. I recall when I do like big intros to a video game, I do like to have something prepared for that. Case in point would be Valkyria Chronicles. I loved recording that opening for Valkyria Chronicles because I was listening to the music as I was doing it. And if you've never seen the Valkyria Chronicles videos, I highly recommend them. I highly recommend the series as a whole, the games. One day we will play Valkyria Chronicles 4, but Valkyria Chronicles 1 is a fantastic game and its soundtrack is phenomenal. So I was listening to that while I was writing up my intro, and then I would speak it while again listening to that soundtrack. So it would kind of go with the flow there. That's in a case where I would want to have something written, but otherwise, 95% of what I do when I'm recording it stream of consciousness style. So no, I don't have that problem, Jacob, and I wouldn't really call it a problem per se. You know, there are several instances where it is good to have, you know, a script in place, especially where you want to make sure you get your points across and you don't forget about them in a very short video. Like, I'm thinking like 10-15 minutes. You want to make sure that you're getting the maximum use out of those 10-15 minutes. Now in our case here, we kind of go longer so we can afford a break here and there, but when you're running against the clock, it's kind of important to make sure you get your points across in a way that entices the viewer to come back for more. Jacob's second question is, would you love to do a full multiplayer campaign of CK2 with Old Dragon and other YouTubers? So we've done a couple of campaign series with Old Dragon. I don't think we finished any of them. I recall two off the top of my head. We did one where we used the After the End mod, and we did one where we were playing as a Zunist, which was pretty fun. Praise the sun. We also did one way back at the very beginning of when we played Crusader Kings 2 with Gurmithar. So we have done multiplayer campaigns. The biggest problem that I have with them, and it's not having to do with any of the other YouTubers, it has to do with myself. I have a very limited schedule, and my time is very restricted when it comes to being able to collaborate with other YouTubers. That's because I have a full-time job along with doing this. That's not to say that I wouldn't want to do a multiplayer campaign, but honestly, at this point, I would have to specifically designate time that I would be available, and the YouTuber that I'd be collaborating with would also have to be available and would probably have to make their schedule work with mine rather than I work with theirs. And that's, there has to be some give and take there, and what I found is that all I can do really is take in this sort of scenario. So if there ever came a point where we could do a multiplayer campaign without having to worry about a schedule, absolutely. But I would probably have to not be working while doing it. So yes, I would love to. Probably a bit hard to make that happen though, Jacob. Probably a little bit hard. Sorry about that. Our next question comes from Scarface Man 77. And he writes, what gives you the most entertainment when it comes to CK2? And what has been the most pleasant surprise? That's an interesting question, Scarface. What gives me the most entertainment? What gives me the most entertainment about a game like Crusader Kings 2 is that I, theoretically, don't have to do anything and the game will tell a story by itself. And I've said this, a couple of times in these questions, in these Q&A sessions, and even in my vlogs. Crusader Kings 2 has the unique ability to be able to tell a story without direct player intervention. If you were to simply start it at 769 AD and stopped it at 1453, I guarantee you no two campaigns would be the exact same. No two campaigns would be the exact same. And that's the mark, what I feel, of a great game. That gives me the most entertainment. One day we may just say, hey, let's do that, and I would literally commentate over the changing of time in that map without having to play it, with just watching it happen. I find that to be a really unique thing, a really unique experience to be able to do. There are a couple of other games that could possibly do that, but Crusader Kings 2, to me, is the standout when it comes to that. So maybe one day we'll make it happen. I don't know, but that's what gives me the most entertainment, is that I can just look away from a section of the map and then go back to it, 20 in-game years later, and then, oh my god, everything has changed. I also love the fact that if you dive deeper, besides just map changes, if you dive deeper into the families themselves, you can pinpoint what happened with that family, what's happened, what's going on. Case in point, there's a point in our current Crusader Kings 2 series where the King of Lombardy has been excommunicated from by the Pope, and he is in a war with Aragon over in Spain. Aragon wins that war, so this king is then deposed, and his son comes to power. Well, you would think, okay, son moves on. No, that king has a vassal so loyal that the vassal proceeds to murder their child a few months after in-game. And then because the child is killed, his heir is the father again. So King Adelchis I comes back to power after his son, King Adelchis II, is murdered. Because of that count's loyalty, because of that lord's loyalty. And the fact that the game can tell that story in such a way that we as the player, without even needing to be a part of that experience, am able to figure out what's going on, that's awesome. That gives me the entertainment value. That's one of the reasons why I have 1,000+ hours of playing that game, and I don't intend on stopping anytime soon. Unless there's Crusader Kings 3 coming around. Paradox. Make it happen. I'd be happy to test it as well. And then the second half of your question, which is what has been the most pleasant surprise, probably is the fact that 7 years later, this game came out in 2012. 7 years later, I am still playing this game. That is the most pleasant surprise. If you equate game time to dollars spent, it's no contest. I have gotten my money's worth and then some. You look at Crusader Kings 2 today, and there are comments about how Paradox does how it does monetization. Instead of it being like microtransactions within a game, instead it's by purchasing downloadable content and expansion packs post game launch. So you have to decide if you're not okay with microtransactions, you have to be okay with expansion packs and downloadable content. Even with all of that said, I think the game runs, if you were to buy the game right now at full price and with all the downloadable content, I think it runs somewhere around $300. I think. Don't quote me on that. I didn't check it before I said it. So if it's higher, my apologies. So if you look at the game and then you look at all the downloadable content, $300, $400. But then you look at the game time that is spent in that game. In my case, 1,000 hours plus. In other people's cases, at least, 30, 40, 50, 60, 100, 200 hours. If you've invested that much money into the game, you're probably a fan of that game at that point. So you're enjoying your experience. Well, if you're enjoying your experience, then it's a pleasant surprise that you've gotten your money's worth. It happens so rarely in this day and age of video gaming. I can name plenty of games where I have not gotten my money's worth and I have made terrible, terrible mistakes. Truthfully, I have games that I've spent Champions Online, and no fault against the developers, which is Cryptic Studios. No fault of them. I purchased a lifetime subscription to Champions Online back when the game first launched. It launched back in 2009. It's now 2019, and I have never played past the tutorial of that game. And I think the lifetime subscription at that time was like $300. So I've spent $300 on a game that I've not played. So that's an unpleasant surprise, but it's a reality for me. Meanwhile, with Crusader Kings 2, I've spent $300, $400, whatever wasn't gifted or given to me by Paradox. I have spent that money in that game and have gotten 1,000 hours plus in that game. So that's the pleasant surprise. And I hope to have more of those pleasant surprises in the future. Hopefully. In this day and age, you never know. You don't know. But great question, Scarface Man. Our next question comes from Welks. Not Welks. Wex. Welks is Valkyria Chronicles again. I've got Valkyria Chronicles on the brain. And Wex's question is, what is your favorite alcoholic drink? If you don't touch this stuff, what is your favorite non-alcoholic drink? So I don't really drink Wex. Every now and again, occasionally, I'll have whatever a group is having. I'm a social drinker, I guess is what you would say. And again, very rarely to that effect. Very, very rarely. Most of the time, I'll just stick with water. Honestly, coffee is probably my favorite non-alcoholic drink. I love coffee. I grew up with the stuff. In my household, you drank coffee every day. Every morning, there was a pot of coffee being brewed by the time I woke up to get ready to go to school. Like that just happened. That was there, and it's a part of me today, for that matter. And as far as like the types of coffee go, it depends. Like you can have your French press style, you can have your drip brew. I mean, there are tons of different ways that you can have your coffee. But I love fresh coffee. I love grinding the beans myself and then putting that into the brewer. I just bought a new brewer actually. I haven't set it up yet, but it's a new Ninja brewer, and I'm looking forward to trying that one out. I was gonna go with a Breville, but it would cost a little bit too much for me, and I was just like, not quite ready to be that committed. So the Ninja should be nice. I'm looking forward to taking that for a spin. Besides coffee, I've started to get into tea actually as well. Mostly herbal teas, but I have tried a few black and green teas, which is sad for me because there used to be a Tavana next to me, like where I work, and it's just like not there anymore. Unfortunately, closed down way back in the day, like 2 years ago maybe. No, not even a year ago. I want to say they closed that shop down, so can't get your tea there anymore. But there's a Starbucks in that same area, in that same little strip, and they have like the little tea packets there that I enjoy. So yeah, tea, coffee. I used to be a big milk drinker actually as well, but having some stomach troubles in this day and age, milk does not go over too well with me anymore. So, c'est la vie. I'm starting to think if there's anything else that I used to be heavy into soda as well. Coke, pop, whatever you want to call it. But I've kind of cut that out over the past month, and I really don't miss it, honestly. You start to forget what it tastes like, so that's better for me, I guess. But yeah, primarily just coffee is my favorite go-to drink. Orange juice is another one. I love a good orange juice or an apple juice, truthfully. Especially like in the morning, maybe with like a breakfast, some eggs, some bacon, some orange juice. Oh, so good, so good. And then you get your orange juice, you down that first, and then you have your coffee while you're eating your food. So good, so good. Great question, Wex, apparently, because now I'm thinking about breakfast. I need to find a breakfast place now, because it's too late for breakfast. Cool. And our next question comes from Chris Hennington. This is a first for Chris here. Chris asks, "Hey J2, I know that you've lived in the Pacific Northwest. How do you like it? Where do you hail from originally?" So, Chris, I actually live in the Pacific Northwest right now. I live in Oregon. I've moved around quite a bit over the past couple of years, though. I've lived in Utah, I've lived in Washington, I've lived in Oregon. But I originally hail from New Jersey. And I lived there for the first 20 or so years of my life. And I guess the biggest thing that I enjoy about the Pacific Northwest that was a pain for me in New Jersey is the space that's available. I don't feel cramped in the Pacific Northwest, at least where I live. I know if you go to like downtown Seattle or downtown Portland, the big cities, you still kind of feel that urban environment. But where I live, it's spacious, and there's trees and there's fresh air. And you really, at least where I lived in New Jersey, everything was kind of like urbanized, suburbanized. There wasn't that much space. I always used to joke that in order for somebody to build something in New Jersey, you kind of had to tear something down first. And a lot of cases, and a lot of times, truth be told, there's a lot of history in New Jersey, and that's one thing that I miss about it, is that you can go to like these older buildings, hundreds of years old, these churches and these city halls and these structures that just aren't present here in the Pacific Northwest because, it's only been about 100 to 150 years since the Pacific Northwest was settled. So there's a big difference there. Of course, nothing compares to, places in Europe where it's thousands of years of history there. So it's all a matter of perspective, really. But yeah, I originally hail from New Jersey, and one thing that I get chided on a little bit, I know that at this point probably there's not too much of an accent left, but there are a few times where there are words that I say that I have to think about what I'm saying before I say it, otherwise a slip of the accent might come out. Like, for example, the word yesterday. I have to think about when I'm saying the word yesterday, otherwise I'll just say yesterday. And that's me just kind of going back to that accent. So I don't even know, truthfully, if it is a New Jersey specific thing, but that's just the way when I was growing up, that's the word I would use, yesterday, versus yesterday. I remember when I lived in Utah, somebody called a creek a crick. And I was like, what the hell is that? What's a crick? So accents change all over. The U.S. is just so large that you've got different accents within the same nation, obviously. So I don't know how I started talking about accents when the question was, how do you like the Pacific Northwest? So this is the part where I wish I had a script and I at least had like talking points to review, because I just kind of went off on a tangent there again. Um, Other things I like about the Pacific Northwest is that I enjoy the weather here, truthfully. And, people say, oh, it's too cloudy in the Pacific Northwest, there's no sun. And yes, it's cloudy, but I'll take cloudy over the humidity that can sometimes happen on the Jersey coast, especially in the summertime. Like you can feel like you're taking a shower and you're sitting on your couch in New Jersey versus here in Oregon where I think the worst I've gotten so far is a wind chill every now and again, and even then it's very minor. It only lasts for a day or so. There has been no snow here this past year, at least where I live. So the whole polar vortex thing that happened a week or so ago didn't happen here. We didn't get it. So I'm okay with all that. I'm absolutely okay with all that. And I think one last thing that I enjoy specifically about the Pacific Northwest is just that the pace here is different. And I used to not like it. I used to be annoyed by it. When I lived in Jersey, everything kind of goes at a faster pace. And you're just used to that. That's how you're born. That's how you're raised. Everything has to be go, 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 go. But when I first moved to Utah, and that's not Pacific Northwest, that's more just like the Rocky area, things slow down quite a bit. And then still, here in Oregon and in Washington, people just take their time. That's just the way that things are here. And I'm okay with that. Now I've kind of gotten used to that actually. So I do enjoy that aspect of the Pacific Northwest. So I hope that answers your question, Chris. I don't know how long I'll be staying in the Pacific Northwest. That's always up to the powers that be. But I enjoy it. I enjoy my time while I've been living here. Absolutely. And that is our last question for today's Q&A video. Now, as I mentioned, next week I'm going on a business trip, and I won't have time to record a Q&A video with your questions for next week. So what I'm going to do next week, so that everyone's aware in advance, I'm going to create my own questions that I'd like you to answer. And I think that this would be a nice give and take here where, I would love to hear more specific feedback along a few questions that I have. And I hope you all can, spare a few minutes to answer them for me. It doesn't have to be one person answering the questions. I invite as many answers to the same questions as possible. Please, that really helps. It's almost like a survey, if you really want to think about it that way. But that'll be coming out next week. And then the following week, we'll continue again with our regular Q&A sessions. So that's my plan. Until next time, this is JSquared John Jeremy signing out, saying so long and take care.